Oh my goodness, there's the boys and girls of Facebook Street and YouTube. It's so wonderful to see you. I see you all out there dancing and prancing in the World Wide Web and on the streets of Facebook. Annabelle Black, I saw you. I saw you. Yes, I did. I most certainly did see you. You can't lie to me. No, naughty girl. Let's turn some lighting on so you can see my beautiful face. Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so happy. Oh, got a new hairdo. Is that tough enough for you? Got a new hairdo. And I got my back patches for my vest. Ooh, it's this one here. Oh, Someone Unlimited. Yeah, this one on the bottom. Oh, and then I got the Rising Phoenix. Yeah, Rising Phoenix is going right dead center of my vest. Oh, man, I'm excited. Ooh, and on top of that, I got this really, really cool knife. It's Damascus. Ooh. Oh my goodness, look at that. Just beautiful. Oh my God. Can't wait to cut a deer up with this fall. A deer or three. Yeah, and then all the salmon I'm going to get. Ooh, I'm so excited. Oh, but today is a special day. It's 13th of April, 2021. I'm Zack Radio, probably broadcasting from Lancaster, Ohio. This is a very important recording today. I want to do a few things. First of all, well, I don't know if I can do that. I'm getting ready to strip some recordings from Facebook using my Focusrite. Yeah, my Focusrite Scarlett 2i2. Yeah, I got a Scarlett 2i2, and I can't wait to start stripping recordings off of Facebook and making some CDs. Getting ready to produce some CDs for people and some DVDs of some of the more important performances that are of literary value. So I'm in the process of doing that, but I'm also working on my second book, Escaping Despondent Sea Part 2. I have a feeling it's going to end up being a trilogy because there's so much content that I have to share within the book. Book 1 is 502 pages. 502 pages of truth and reality exposés, lots and lots of exposés. There's even a couple of treasure maps in there with physical, tangible treasure to put your greedy, filthy little fingers on. Yeah, yes, there is. Anyway, yeah, ZPReland.com. Norton Antivirus is trying to get money out of old Mad Zack. Yeah, that's not going to happen. SoundCloud. Annabelle Black. Oh my goodness. I know everybody out there is just dying to express themselves on a fine day. Well, I'm having technical difficulty, but what I am going to do is I'm going to go right into reading a very special excerpt from my book. I've read a few of them, but I'm going to read another one today. I'm just going to pick one out. Ooh, everybody likes playing blackjack. Let's check out part 21. This is 21 from my book, Escaping Despondent Sea. It's a very important book, very important story. So we're going to read this excerpt. This is part 21. Hey, Rocky. Yeah, I'm simultaneously broadcasting. I'm doing a YouTube thing for my YouTube people that are following along with my audio book. This is my rough draft version of my audio book. Yeah, I'm going to take my hat off. That's right. I got a bottle of water here. Anyway, Sully told me of how he and one of his brothers had been fishing in the Grand River in Michigan when they found some small glass vials among the rocks in the water. Assuming them to be cocaine or morphine, they took it home and injected it into their veins. They discovered that it was not medicinal. It was chemical, better known as stink bomb. It is curious to think of now, and it wouldn't surprise me to find out that his brother placed them there to find, and that it was a trick to get Sully to shoot stuff in his veins. His brothers were deviant, malicious like that. Sully spoke of this as a reborn Christian, having been devout since the early 90s when he dried out in jail. He explained how amazing the human body is and that it is a miracle that the body can endure that kind of abuse. It's just an example of immortality in a sense, or the will to live, if you want to call it living. But he was genuine and sincere and a person with heart. Though he still had many of the traits of an addict, he did the best he could to maintain his business and his tasseled kids, not to mention his black hole of a wife. If he was ever found dead or just fell back into addiction, oh my goodness, she would be the reason. Brian Neary, glad to see you here. My efforts to get clean were continuously undermined by Ronald and the fact that I had nowhere to seek refuge. Thumbing through a telephone book, I frantically searched for somewhere that I could call to get help from. It ended up looking like the only place I was to call was the Independent Living Association. Tina Tilney answered that call. She came out to the house immediately, where we discussed what made me eligible for their help. The idea of being able to get assistance was elevating. This restored my hope instantly. We discussed my having serious issues with managing affairs, no matter how great or small at the time. I had so little awareness of anything that it's amazing I had the ability to continue trying to stop myself from feeling. It was rarely my idea to bathe or eat, and rarely knew the date or time, and the truth was that I had become so despondent that myself was completely lost. Glad you're here, Brian. I'm glad to see you. I'm reading a special excerpt from my blog. I'm simultaneously broadcasting on YouTube. This is a dry run kind of an experiment about making my audio book, because a lot of people would favor that over the digital or even the printed copy. Anyway, let's return to the story. There was no knowledge of the extent of my injuries because the doctor I was referred to by Blodgett Hospital, Dr. Mervyn Smith, provided so little assistance that I stopped going to see him to avoid it triggering my depression. My back and neck hurt constantly. My ears rang almost continuously. I couldn't sleep because my mind and heart raced. My wrists were sprained and my jaw snapped and locked up sometimes. When I did sleep, I suffered extremely severe nightmares. And making it worse was that just before Mindy had abandoned me, she gathered up all of my meds and threw them away, immediately calling the doctor to complain about them, which made my life hell all the more. Now, with one phone call, my problems were compounded. Calling the ILS was my attempt to help myself. This was after meeting with me and explaining that she was going to help. She informed me of all the things they could do and that I could do, right down to me working part-time as an assistant DJ or a public radio station. Ms. Tilney certainly renewed me with hope. Amid the disaster I was left in when Mindy ran off, there was a friend or two left to confide in. One was Ron Volks, who lived in a house that he owned on the corner of Knapp and Coit. This is where I sometimes had played music during my marriage. It was here that I was last at when I was in an accident that helped to destroy my reality. One night, Ron's wife died in their bed. He never seemed to fully recover from that. Come to find out, she had rheumatic fever as a child. This illness left a hole in her heart, which was the cause of her death. She was a sweetheart. He had been maintaining, but became in a weekend alcoholic routine, always the same thing every weekend. It seemed normal, but the truth was not pretty. No one would recognize it for the fear that they would find a fault in themselves. While visiting him, an old friend of his, Ron Gromley, was back from Texas, having recently been released from jail there after a divorce and a drunk driving charge. Gromley was moving into a house owned by his aunt. This house was a block away from Ronald Jackson's place. Gromley said he needed some help with the rent, so I jumped at the chance. Talk about being in the right place at the right time. Or was I? Yeah, I slipped out of Ronald Jackson's while he was at work one day. The last time I caroused with him was the weirdest one for me. It became very clear to see how badly the entire city was polluted with crack cocaine. There was a plasma clinic near the 6th Street Dam Fish Lab where Ronald gave plasma in exchange for about $30 cash. This day he was giving plasma for money to buy crack with. Since I had no identification or documents to become enrolled myself, I waited outside. When Ronald came out, he already had 2 cocaine rocks in his hand, having bought them right there while lying on the table with the IVs on. The guy laying on the table next to him had the dope. I kept tossing this around in my head, along with the disgust with myself associating with any of it. How I got into this situation in life and how to correct it were questions I was too poisoned and distracted to answer, disabled by lost love for myself. It would be a cold day in hell before I would ever let Ronald know where I moved. Chapter. Ron Gronler had gone to Texas to start a family with a beautiful Mexican woman that had become pregnant with his child. We were all at Ron Volk's house the day he was leaving to go to Texas. She was very nice, pleasant, personable, and pretty. I was happy for them. That was about a year and a half earlier. It didn't take long for everything to fall apart. Moving to Texas may have been the problem, only on top of having an ego problem, but having a programming history, not unlike the one that has misinformed so many men in America and is only getting worse. His father happened to be the upstairs occupant on the house we were moving into, helping to care for him being a prerequisite in the scenario. The old man was dying from cancer and needed a bit of assistance. He had Meals on Wheels coming, but I think it only got in the way of his drinking. Substance abuse smashes everything and is a bigger issue in the United States than anyone was willing to see. Myself, I had no idea that everyone around me was dying from drugs and alcohol. What I would learn regarding Ron's Texas experience is that his wife said no more and filed for divorce. Ron would have me believe that she only married him to become a citizen so her family could come here from Mexico. He went in and cleaned out the house of all possessions of value, putting everything in a safe hiding place, only to end up doing a year in prison. This was due to his alcohol use. It would soon come out that he had been smoking crack cocaine as well, pretty heavily. As we hauled in her stuff, I secretly felt her pain. Having just lost my whole world, I couldn't believe that someone would approve of destroying his or her own. Denying there was a chance I was making a mistake, I pressed on with moving in and helping to make the home livable. Besides, Ron Groenler wasn't a bad guy. Yeah, we had a lot in common. It was an all-out effort on both of our parts to make a home out of this place and get on the right track in life. We just have to drink so much so often. After getting the house together, the yard into shape, I gave Bob a call. The idea was to show him that things were improving in my life and that I wanted to practice my trade. He was desperate to have my work to hide behind and would work with me on getting the job, getting to and from the job. I was right on the bus route, which made it convenient. These days we were working on Johnny Van Soos developments near Rockford alongside Tommy Bruin's projects, and also another part-time builder that demanded I was working on his projects. These were the days of all-you-can-eat spaghetti dinners at Rinaldi's Italian restaurant in Rockford, and these were the days when Van Soos told Bob he was a hack. After about 6 months, Bob, knowing I had no driver's license, left me with his old truck and a list of things to work on at the Van Soos project. Bob was going to Florida for his annual NASCAR event in Daytona, which was a good place for him because he was once again wearing away at my last nerve with his constant insults and destructive criticism, his derogative attitude towards me. He was always bringing up the subject of my ex-wife and kids to humiliate me, picking at the scabs that festered. It inwardly infuriated him that I wouldn't be coerced into attacking him in a violent fit of rage. It also goaded him that I wouldn't share his diverse guilts. He liked to jab at me in any way he could think of. He knew I was battling with alcohol, and what bothered him was that it made him see the problem in himself that he had with drinking. He'd keep a huge cooler full of beer in the van all the time to drink on the way home. He didn't want me sober. He feared I would escape his control, a control that he hated to love. I was thankful when he left, thankful to have some peace. My mistake would be to drink at work, or drink after work. That first day was gone. I've been doing so good. I was paying my child support and everything. Pride, ego, and a taste of independence combined to disable my view of the big picture. This is also when Ronald Jackson discovered where I lived. The snow was melting away in dirty little piles one spring day. Ron Gronler and I were in the yard working when Ronald Jackson happened by. Gronler had said that we lived there, despite my attempts to downplay why we were there working. I tried to pass it off as a yard cleanup job that we were doing for someone. Ronald Jackson came by a short while later with a joint to smoke. This was the second day I'd been left to use the truck. Yeah, this gets good. Yeah, the joint Ronald came by with wasn't your regular old grass cigarette. The joint was a corn dog having some crack cocaine sprinkled on it. No big deal, I thought. Well, it was just enough to get the demon moving again. It caused me to lose control of myself, which is exactly what it was supposed to do since I had a job. Ronald set me in a position for himself that evening, and I fell right into the trap. He got me started, and I ran until my money was gone, exactly what it's supposed to do to people. I failed the test of my responsibility by going on a crack binge with Ronald Jackson in the inner city. Chasing dope all night puts you on the road a lot. What made this trip the last trip, and what made the last trip the final trip, was that I had turned onto an on-ramp of the highway and lost control of the truck on a slippery street surface, bouncing off both sides of the embankment with each end of the truck. The next day, though minimal, I realized the damage. The bumper molding was pinched at the middle of the bumper, causing the plastic to pull away from the surface. With a little panic and some adhesive products, I glued it and taped it down with the glue work so the glue could set. Despite my attempts to conceal the damage, Bob noticed it within a few hours of being home. But the bumper wasn't what caught his eye. It was the body line from the bed to the cab that got his attention. I guess it twisted it just a little when I hit. Bob then went out and examined it closer, seeing my failed attempts to make the repairs. Well, with Bob being an expert fault finder, he found everything but the truth. No matter the situation or how hard he tried, truth was never revealed to him, except for the truth about himself that he tried desperately to ignore. These were the truths that he kept others from knowing by keeping them distracted in any way he could manage to, which was not unfamiliar to me, being that I was distracting myself from my pain with anyone and anything I could find or afford. That's a bit of an exaggeration. I never touched a lot of other drugs outside cocaine, muscle relaxers, alcohol, marijuana, some LSD, mushrooms. Oh, that's all, man, Zack. Oh. While writing down these memories today, I began reading a book written by Joyce Myers titled Beauty for Ashes. This wasn't exactly what I needed, since I'm attempting to do this for myself by writing is healing from the years and years, a lifetime of abuse and pain. My efforts are giving me something that I beg those around me for: closure. Closure is a gift that I'm giving to myself so that I may be able to make the most of what is left of my life ahead, to be restored as a father, as a man. One of my hopes are that I may continue working on those things that I've worked on in the past in my efforts to want to give something to people to help them live better. Incidentally, living better was not what I've been writing about. It's about all the failures along the way. Right about now is when I helped someone loot an old building. Charles had it all set up, just needing a small amount of my help. This small amount happened to be the most critical part of the mission, which was merely recovering his belongings after having lived there. Why do I help everyone who asks? I don't know. I can only speculate. That's what happens when an addiction to cocaine corrupts your mind. It gets its claws into you, and you'll do things you never dreamed of. You'll do things you never speak of, and those things will eat away at you inside until you die miserably or wish you would die. The Squirrels chapter. I read your story on Cow Chap. It's immensely inspirational. How you covered your gender transition is impressive. Well, thank you very much, Kyle. It wasn't easy to come out of the closet and represent myself as an individual society and a bisexual. Yeah, it wasn't easy, but I did it. I'm out here representing men, helping men stand on their own 2 feet, helping boys become men. I'm so glad you joined me. Please stick around and listen to the rest of this excerpt. The Squirrels chapter. I love playing with trolls. Here's something that still bothers me. Shortly after moving into this house with Growler in the spring, we couldn't help but notice that there were an awful lot of squirrels in the yard. Well, squirrels are one of my favorite small game meats, so I decided to try and get a few. Now, if I wasn't so concerned with having money for drugs and alcohol, I'd have just bought a pellet rifle, but my priorities weren't here, especially since I could think of a way to do it to spare myself the unnecessary expense. Yeah. I searched the garage despite it being in the middle of collapsing, and I searched the basement of the house. This led me to a rat trap that hung from a nail on a floor joist, but that wasn't until after I had tried to build a live trap using a 5-gallon paint bucket and a refrigerator grate. The wire shelf made a lid that I attached to the bucket with a couple pieces of wire coat hanger for fasteners. It also created the hinges. Then I tied a brick to the lid and placed some birdseed in the bucket. I used the stick to prop the lid open and tied a rope to it, like a box trap from the days of old. It was just like in the cartoons around the little rascals. It worked well if the squirrels had just relaxed a bit, but they freaked out, shooting out of the trap like furry little rockets of claws. The rat trap was a cartoon moment, like when you see the light bulb over a character's head appear and illuminate. I tied the piece of heavy yarn to it and tied the other end to a large broken tree branch that laid there on the ground so they wouldn't run off with the trap. Figuring that the peanut butter would be a great bait, and remember the Planters commercials, I ran in and got the jar, slathering some on the trap. Well, before I pulled the cellar door shut behind me, I heard that awesome snap that said I had one. Dragging the bucket behind me, I took the squirrel off, dropped him in, and baited the trap again. I was pretty excited. Hunting squirrels in the rat trap. I'll be dipped in shit. Well, as I put the trap back down, I saw the squirrels at my feet. Wow, I thought, this is too easy. I can't believe I never thought of this before. In about 10 minutes, I had 5 of them. Ron Gormler volunteered to clean them and cook them. The sounds of them gagging and dry heaving from the act and the smells that go along with it had me choking on the laughter that was a challenge to keep under my breath, let me tell you. Yeah. While he was doing that, I was looking out the window at the backyard, filled with a sense of pride for having succeeded in trapping squirrels. There was an overabundance of them, which is one of the reasons I even killed them. But now I see past our fence, and there's an old woman on her backyard deck. She had a 3-foot A-frame, carpeted, covered perch for them to climb on, where she fed them from her hand and talked to them. These squirrels I just killed had a caretaker with names and everything. There were more or less pets and very friendly. Suddenly I was sick inside, sick at heart. I just killed a bunch of tame squirrels, and boy, I was ashamed. To this day, I still feel bad about it. Eating Beaver, that's an excerpt out of my book. Hunter Minto is an excerpt out of my book, Escaping Despondent Sea. It's a very powerful story. It's meant to change lives. If DMX would have read it, he might be alive today. Yeah, you remember that. I said that. It was only a matter of time before I was familiar with enough addicts to suck me back into the twilight dope scene. My friends lived on Fuller, and I lived off from Leonard and Alpine, so being on foot brought me into the battlefield. A $5 bill nearly got me killed once by a would-be attacker. My mistake was getting into a car with a stranger who had been out running around chasing his tail for rocks all night. Just because someone has a car, even a nice car, doesn't mean anything at all when referring to a person's principles or morals or ethics. Material possessions are often part of a charade, an antithesis even. We had met because I was trying to score at the same place, not really knowing where to score, just searching through the city sludge. Well, after being on foot in the rock scene's royal rat race, a car is a welcome thing. You own mobile dope smoking spot with no outsiders wanting to share your dope. But when the dope was gone, he came up with a plan of his own. Deciding we should do some cruising, he drove us to the Grand River down Butterworth Drive out near the gypsum mines. He knew I still had a $5 bill, but I needed it for other things. There was a chunk of industrial wire on the floor of the front passenger seat area that was about 16 inches long and an inch around, sheathed in black plastic casing. It was perfect for bludgeoning with. Yeah, my spirit already knew what was going on. Though in danger, I remained calm. His body language confirmed what his plans were. He suggested we get out and walk around. I really didn't think much of it, probably denying I was in a precarious, life-threatening position, but out of the corner of my watchful eye, I noticed him reach for it. He fondled the item while we worked up the nerve, probably deciding if he could or should, or if he could overpower me or not. That was when I realized it was really about to happen. Suddenly, oh man, Zach's pretty smart. He's smart like a fox. Pretending like everything was normal and that we were merely trying to kill time in an attempt to come down. I suddenly blurted out, "Oh my goodness, I just remembered I have money." Thank you, Stephanie. This is my own design. Yeah, it's my own design. Anyway, yeah. I said, I just remembered I have money. That's when I gave him an explanation of how I always cash my checks at Edzio's liquor store and that he didn't have all the money yesterday, still owing me $165. This worked like a charm. He drove us back immediately because drug heads and fucking crackheads are goddamn idiots. Yes, they are my sour teeth. Some are still there yet, and some have been pulled. I'm in the process of having them all removed and getting dentures. Yes. Thank you for caring enough to mention my teeth. Yeah. It's one of the last things I need to do to work on myself so that I can better give to society. Yeah, improve myself. Yeah, imagine get my driver's license back. Those are the last 2 things. I've done everything else. The couch is up for the couch isn't for sale. The couch is for rent. It's $250 for the night is where the bid's at. Brandon K. Woods is the lead bidder. It's $250 for the night. You get food, special cuisine made by me. You get entertainment provided by me, and you get some non-gratis gratuities like a couple of drinks and a little bit of smoke. Yeah. Anyway, let me get back to the book. So you're gonna have to do better than 250 on the couch. Let's see. Yeah, so that worked like a charm. I tricked. Yeah. When I went inside the store, I told the clerk that someone was trying to rob me, and I asked him if he had a back door. There was not a back door. My only chance to escape unseen was to dash out and run west, crossing the street towards the south about a half a block down. Since the guy was parked on the east side of the building, he wouldn't be able to get a perspective on me. There was no place closer than 4 blocks south of me to get off of the street. 4 blocks is plenty of space to get caught up again. Scared me to death, but I had been in several brushes with death before. I've been dead 6 times in the hospital. Yeah, they keep bringing me back. After managing to escape that situation, I never saw him again, that I know of. One thing I know of for certain is that crack cocaine, or cocaine period, is a lot bigger problem in Grand Rapids than people realize. I witnessed firsthand, and I'm not sure that it isn't being used as a tool for a variety of manipulations that I'd be killed for suggesting, and I do have evidence. But how do you get funding for problems? You have to have those problems to get the funding for them, okay? Pay very close attention to that, Zach. I'm a professor here in my classroom. And if everyone is consuming alcohol, they're just a bunch of crass conspiracy theorists, and nobody listens to their drunken tirades. Just look at how they defamed Oliver Stone. 51 or 52 days sober, by the way, for myself. Thank you very much. Anyway, let's continue on. One night, I manipulated Ron Grunler's dad into letting me use his car to make a dope run by telling him I needed to run to the store. I ended up with a flat tire and no way to tend to it, driving for who knows how long, maybe 6 miles, until the rubber busted apart and the rim was ruined. Ron fixed it the next day. I contemplated checking in somewhere, but I lacked the confidence of 3 days of dry out, or confidence in myself to confide in it, or even deserve it. I'm not sure what happened regarding moving out of the house, whether I was evicted or if I just decided that I needed a different environment. Oh, I remember now. Ron Gronler introduced me to a bar called the West Side Bar, where we went for beers and burgers. They made a burger called the Hog Burger, served with bacon or ham on a 1.5 pound patty. The place was a biker hangout that appealed to me, so I started going there regularly, eventually becoming acquainted with the owner. One day I went in wearing a t-shirt for a bandana. That was the day I met Terry Lynn. As I stood at the serving trough waiting for my beer, she struck up a conversation with a question: "What kind of guy are you?" The next thing you know, I was seeing her daily. Soon she was served an eviction notice to move from her apartment for non-payment of rent. She was probably fishing for her next move the night I met her. What a sucker I was, finally figuring out that she was a junkie. I do not recall, but I'm sure the dope was brought into view early on. The extent of her addiction was yet to be recognized. Apparently, she'd blown her money with her on and off again boyfriend, and a little too often. She was probably led on that he would pay her back for their excursions, up to the point where time lapsed and the rent had been put off too long to salvage. She was quick to play my heartstrings and moved in with me. I failed to recognize that cute little sneeze, though thespian, as an intended tool for her prey. She was a full-blown addict that she couldn't shoot herself up, always needing me to do it for her. My first thought about her was that she was okay because she had a job. Well, let me tell you, having a job doesn't mean much. The important part to take notice of is what gets done with the money. It's got nothing to do with how much you have, just what you do with it. She spent hers in the bars while looking for places to spend it in the street. Yeah, things just kept going from bad to worse for me. Shooting up was her thing, and she couldn't do it alone, which made me the guy since I was preying on her for affection and companionship. She would score whatever she could put in a needle, dilaudid when she could find it, and crack any other time. She'd crush it up, dissolve it in lemon juice, suck it up into a dirty needle, and shove it into her arm. I was baffled. I wondered often, is the whole world like this? It certainly seemed like it to me. It only made me agonize that much more over the reality of what the divorce had done to me. Miserable is one of the many terrible things I was. Was this type of degradation all that I was going to find in my search for wholeness? Death was the one gift that couldn't be received. And though death was always around me, it was wasn't for me to receive. Why? 6 times dad in the hospital. One night, Terry and I went to the West Side Bar. It was my aim to go either way, but she ended up accompanying me for the sake of dope. It was very cold and snowing that night in November. The wind was whipping pretty hard. The West Side Bar was about a 15-minute walk, which might have been 12 blocks or more. This was too far considering the weather. We decided to ride my bicycle, but I'm pretty sure it was my own idea. When we finally left the bar, it was close to midnight. Holding the bike up, ready to start paddling, I waited for Terry to get on. After shoving off with my foot, I began to crank the pedals. In the next 20 feet, we began to fall over to the right side. Releasing the bike and gaining a hold of the ground, I managed to land on my feet. Terry was not so quick to reflex properly and ended up lying on the ground as if still be riding a bike. When I helped her up, it was quickly decided that we'd walk for a while. Many times that night, she had made comments like, "I'm living proof that you can live on beer and popcorn alone." And we ended up walking for a few yards because she kept yelling about her leg. There was no doubt that it was painful, especially after I looked at it under the streetlight. Between the knee and her ankle, it was bent like a cheap piece of macaroni embedded in a banana. I went back inside the bar to make a phone call. Ron Grolner came to get us with his dad's car, driving us to the Butterworth Hospital for the broken leg to be treated. She was in the hospital for several days, hooked up to an IV pain management system, screaming her full hat off, milking it for all it was worth. Thoughts began running through my head, pretty constant about my relationship with her. It may have been, only a few days before I decided I'd had enough. One day I told her that I couldn't take it anymore and that I couldn't live with the reality of the drug use, the shooting up, the anxiety of whether or not I was going to catch something from her or become a junkie too. So I left the house I shared with Ron and her so that I could get away from it and so she could still have a place to stay. After bouncing around at friends' houses that I drank and smoked a while, I was lost in the streets for a spell. I went to Mary Doyle's house in order to spend some time near my oldest daughter and maybe crash for a while until I could figure out what to do. Mary's ex-husband, Bruce LaShawn, was staying there, living in the garage, which was just a city dump with a roof and power outlet. Bruce's state of reality didn't let him see that he didn't seem to mind, as long as he had tobacco in his 40-ounce bottle of Magnum. He had a small television and a radio that he managed to find in a trash can while diving dumpsters in the neighborhood. He also had a recliner chair that he occupied much of the time. This was also where he slept or passed out. Little did I know the house was dominated by a whole barrel of demons, and it was just a short time away from serious fire caused by the kids cooking hot dogs in the attic space where they had a fort. It wouldn't be long until the final result of the family's dysfunction and standard of acceptable living would be that the city bulldozed the house into the ground. My heart went out for the whole situation and everyone involved, but the only one who responded to any kind of attempt I made to help was Bruce. There was more irony, but I would have inevitably find out that there was no real help for him that would make any sense at all. Hold on, I'm reading. Rarely in the past did I have a conversation with Bruce, let alone anything in common to talk about other than a child with the same mother, Mary Doyle. So now it made sense to me to try helping him. If nothing else, our children would see that I was not the bad guy as far as failing at the relationship with their mom. Having once again regained my employment with Sally, I talked him into giving Bruce a chance at doing some groundwork, picking up shingles on our tear-offs, for instance. It made sense to me that Bruce would feel a gaining in his confidence and his self-esteem if he had a job. And it was another gung-ho push on me getting a grip on my life since I had just been on another binge, being approached by a police cruiser to be asked if I was okay while stood out on a street corner at 5 a.m, waiting for somebody to come back with the crack, who was probably watching me from a window while smoking a dope that they bought with the money. It ended up that I had to accept being robbed, so I started the long walk back from Franklin Street all the way back to 44th Street for the entire world to see. I guess my desperation was so much that in order to help myself, I had to help someone else, but that really made no sense since I could find no way to really help myself but to try to keep a job, and it was all I could do to do that. I had no business worrying about Bruce, and little did I know he was a lost cause. What I did was open up to Sally. He was the only person I knew who was sober, with a sober mind. Sally didn't really have any real answers, not any different than the truth of the reality: quit drinking. But he helped in every way I allowed him to. Sally gave a job to Bruce to do, and he soon assisted us with securing an apartment that one of his clients had available. Part of the deal was that there was a lot of work that needed to have done in order to be rented out by the law. The kitchen was in a shambles, and the bathroom needed some serious love. The back entrance stairwell needed some intensive care, in addition to overhauling windows and an interior paint job. It was a great relief, and I was happy to have it, and I think Bruce was too. This was the McReynolds place off of the southeast corner of Leonard and Alpine. After settling in, I went out to few of my lesser toxic friends' houses to brag up my new developments. Now is when I go through the Matt and Sarah phase, learning of their divorce and trying to lend a hand, like I didn't have my hands full with my own rehabilitation, with trying to provide Bruce with a change to regain his dignity. William Zigzag Good lived on the block. It was at that time that I started visiting with him and his wife. Just around the corner from the apartment was a party store. It was on the corner and was attached to a row of apartments. I met a guy who lived there while buying some beer one day. He was a very nice guy. Not too many months back, he had been asked for a ride while leaving Conkle's Bar on the west side. Of course, he said he would help, but when he got to his Ford Ranger, the guy pistol whipped him and took his truck, leaving the man lay there with a hole smashed in his skull. This man had just recently been released from the residential hospital treatment, having had a steel plate put in his head. He'd been in a coma for some period of time. It wasn't the only man I had met that had this happen around here. It was a fairly common thing on the west side of Grand Rapids. Almost done here. Bruce's psychiatric issues would finally rear their ugly heads, starting with the disappearance of the rent money, but I failed to understand the extent of it until it was too late. And although my efforts to keep myself all too busy to drink and use didn't keep me from trouble, it all added up to a college education. What I learned was a firsthand account about a lot of things pertinent to life and present day reality that maybe I was supposed to learn. It makes me feel like it was fuel for something, maybe writing, that will one day help a man, a woman, when he decides that it is time to make himself feel deserving of it, starting with myself. Who knows? Was it to build my belief in something more and my hopes for mankind and to truly understand the hell my children endured during this time in our lives? That could have ended me up in prison for something violent, which I'm thankful never happened. It seems like I was supposed to meet some of these people. I was supposed to meet Dan. Without a lot of these things that happened, I wouldn't be who I am today, who I am in a relationship and as a father and as a husband and a friend, teacher. There's no pride in any of these things that I've done, but I'm proud of making decisions that got me where I am today. There's a sense of pride in being who I am, who I've fought to be, resisting to follow others and to become like them, sharing their ideas or lack of, hating the things they hate, reciting the songs they sing, hiding from God and myself. Yeah. That's the end of excerpt from my book, Escaping the Despondent Sea. That's part 21. It's a draft. You cannot read that in my blog because it's been reduced to a draft or reverted to a draft. You have to buy the book. It's available on Amazon. Kindle Unlimited members can read it for free. Oh, Dalton Wood. It's been a very exclusive group of people have been able to sit their sweet ass upon my couch cushions. Yes, and I do pull the cushions off routinely, at least once every 2 weeks. I do wash them and then go through the hassle of reassembling the cushions. So I have a very clean house with a very, very, very good living standard that I'm very proud of. And I love to entertain people in my home. Joanne Rubio. Hello, Joanne Rubio. Thank you, Dalton Woody. I thought you would love it. Brooklyn, I hope you're out there. Viper, Annabelle Black. I hope you're out there. I'm sorry I couldn't play any of your songs, but please visit Annabelle Black's SoundCloud page, like her songs, share them, listen to them. Oh, you guys you've got to come up with some better content. Look, I'm going to have to join your couch group or your roast groups so that I can offer some content and teach you guys some more clever and witty stuff to say, because that local Goodwill one is beat to death. That's an old one. And besides, this is a very expensive leather vest I bought, special for Mike. And I've got another one that I wear special for performing in that has a big American flag on the back of it. Yes, I'm personally sewing patches on it by hand as we speak. I am. You'd have gone 300 for it unwashed. Oh, well, that's just the beginning if you're very careful, if you're good. I studied massage in college and on my own outside of school. I'm very good at massage. I make love to you with my fingers, just like I make love to you with my performances. Yes, that's why my genre is called bluesalingus. It's two of my favorite things put together to make a word, blues and cunnilingus, and it makes the word bluesalingus because I don't play music. I make love to the music. I make love to the instrument, and I make love to my audience. And I'm very proud to be able to be the one to share bluesalingus with you. YouTube people, love you. I know my channel doesn't have a lot of good stuff on there. There's a lot of it's for my own amusement. There is some very powerful stuff in there if you search, but they can't all be zangers. Yeah. Anyway, peace, love, and remember to care. Yeah, your life is valuable. Your life does matter. That's why you need to educate yourself to bring yourself up, elevated to a good place in society where you can call the shots somewhere and teach kids how to start a fire. Yeah, and feed women and children after the trucking companies break down and there's no grocery stores and stuff like that. You need to educate men to be able to survive on their own, not survive in the city by preying on people weak within them. Matt, Zack here, proudly broadcasting from Lancaster, Ohio. Come and see me at Prospect Studio. Come see the Bandana Brothers songs. That's lots in the library. Visit Annabelle Black. Oh my goodness, she's awesome. Visit the Bobby Baraka. Bobby Baraka and the Silver Screen. She's an award-winning vocalist. Annabelle Black was first signed when she was 13 or 12. And I'm her promoter. Yes, I am. I'm proud to promote her. I'm proud to promote Bobby Baraka and her efforts. Yes, she's also an aspiring string player, award-winning vocalist. And last but most certainly not least at all, the great Chuck Cooley and his band, one of two, the Good Time Believers, and drum roll please, Chuck Cooley and the Demon Hammers. My mantra song is Moving Mountains. Almost Living is requested a lot. My favorite Annabelle Black song is Stalker Chick. I'm sorry, but that's my favorite. And then Warrior by Bobby Baraka. Yes. I'm so proud to be able to share with you people and be able to afford to take some time to be able to share something. And hopefully this special means something to you. Especially you people out there from the roast groups and the couch auction things and stuff. And you beat me down, you banter. I like to think that I have a pretty good, pretty good sport about it. And, we can laugh and joke about my teeth. I don't mind. I'm very content with who I am. And I'm here to inspire other people to come out of the woodwork and not feel inhibited in life because their teeth aren't perfect. Yeah, for instance, and there's girls out there that think they're too fat, they think they're too skinny. There's just people out there that are self-conscious and they're negatively self-conscious and they need some support so that we can bring up their self-esteem and make them feel good about themselves. Yes, and that's what my show is all about. Pushing my book and offering that to people. Oh, Kitty, it's nice to see you again, Kitty. I didn't really play any music today, and I'm going to sign off so I can go talk to my sweetie and they go for a little bike ride. Yeah, I got the bike outside in the front yard. I drove it around a couple of times today, just with token. My kids can't help it. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so I'm going to take her down. Maybe we'll go to Tiki Lays and she can practice riding the old Harley XL 1200 Smart Stair. Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, I'm like I said, don't make me tell you again because I will run my trap. I'm Mad Zack from Prospect Studio, broadcasting from Lancaster, Ohio. I'm representing what's left of the Bandana Brothers in my genre of bluesalingus. Annabelle Black, Bobby Baraka, and the great Chuck Cooley, multiple time all the songwriter award winner, multiple time and multiple times nominated. Come see me. You're going to find something special. You bet your sweet ass. Yeah. So silly, man, Zach. You forgot to end your live video. Oh, I was so excited about doing the show, and I was so proud of myself. I failed to shut the video off. Anyway, I'm mad, Zach. I got lots and lots of special stuff to share with you. Please follow me. Join me on Facebook, where I do most of my broadcasting. Thank you very much. Nothing but best wishes for everybody out there. If you need any support from me at all, with addiction, especially with family issues, please feel free to try and get in contact with me. I'm Zack Radio. Thank you very much.